Welcome. My name's Marissa, and I'm so glad that you're tuning in to Church Online today. If you're new with us, have a care need, would like to connect with the pastor, have any questions about our church, or just want to find ways that you can get plugged in, grab out your phone right now and text the word CONNECT to 951-476-2550. We're so excited for the message today, but before we jump into that, here's a few awesome things we want to let you know that's coming up here at South Hills Church. First, I wanted to remind you that our sunset service is moving from 7 o'clock to 6 o'clock starting tonight. It's going to be the same great service that we've had. We're just moving it up a little bit earlier since the sun's setting earlier and we know kids are back to school. So we'd still love to see you join us tonight at 6 o'clock out on the lawn. We are also so excited to be launching a brand new round of growth groups this month. There are all kinds of groups that we would encourage you to join for all different ages and stages. Some will be meeting online, some will be meeting socially distanced here on campus, and some will be meeting safely in homes and backyards. There are all different ones. We encourage you to find one to sign up because I think now, more than ever, we need to find ways to connect with each other with all the craziness that's going on in the world. So make sure that you check out the Church Center app to find out all of the amazing groups that you can be a part of. Something else that I am super excited about is we are relaunching kids ministry. We will be having an awesome experience for your kids at the 9 a.m. service. So if you have kids 3 years old through 3rd grade, don't miss out. We are so excited to be able to offer this amazing kids experience again for kids. So make sure that you come and check that out starting on September 13th. Lastly, this month we have the amazing opportunity to again partner with Olive Crest. Olive Crest is an awesome organization who helps kids and teens who are in foster care to help them find loving homes. They also work with teens who are aging out of the foster care system to help find them homes and apartments as they transition into adulthood. So we have the opportunity to help bless these teens by providing them some things that they might need as they move into their first home. We will be doing a collection of some different items that we want to bless them with, and you can drop them off here at the church on Sundays. We're going to be collecting brand new bedding, toiletries, and cleaning supplies to create welcome baskets for these awesome kids. You can drop any of this stuff off on campus on Sundays, or if you're unable to drop off supplies, we also have an Amazon wish list, and you can have the items sent directly to the church. You can find the link for that wish list in our Instagram bio, or click on the link at the end of this video. Again, thanks so much for watching, and enjoy the message.
You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemy till all my fears are gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. In my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Your love has called my name. I've been born again into your family. Your blood flows through my veins. Come on, would you sing with us? I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. Oh, child of God. Yes, I am. I am a child of God. Oh, one more time. I am a child of God.
I just want to welcome you once again to Church Online. My name is Adam, and I'm the campus pastor here at our South Hills Corona campus. And I'm so glad that you decided to spend part of your day right here with us on this Labor Day weekend. We're actually between sermon series right now. We like to kind of speak in these collections of talks around a certain topic. And last week we wrapped up this series called This Is Us, 8 weeks long, which is all now archived and available online if you want to rewatch it. And next week, I'm starting a brand new series called Storyline, about making sense of the story that you're living inside of, like how to make sense of your past and how to partner with God to write your future, and a future that you can be proud of. And I cannot wait to jumpstart that 3-week series next week, both online and in person at our on-campus outdoor services. But this week, I just wanted to take some time to just talk about something that I think is interesting and has always been an encouragement to me. And I hope it's an inspiration to you as well. And I hope today that you take some notes, that you scribble down a few things that stand out to you. Maybe you type a few things into your phone or share them online later with a friend. But if you are, the title of my message today is Catchphrases and Compasses. I wonder if there are certain phrases that you say all the time. You know, maybe it's not on purpose. Maybe you're not even aware that you do it. Maybe you didn't even realize it until someone was just like, hey, you say that all the time, right? And you were like, nuh-uh. But, if you were honest, you realize they were right. And this happens to me all the time. I mean, I talk for a living and people pick apart the things I say, which is fine. They should. It's part of the gig. But every once in a while, people will tell me like, you say this all the time, right? And sometimes I'm aware and sometimes I'm not. In fact, this week I asked a few of my staff members what things they feel like they hear me say all the time. And they could not wait to sell me out. I mean, share their insights with me. One of the things that I was told was that I say the word moment a lot, which I do. And if you hear me preach, I do. I say, have you ever had a moment where, or we're kind of in the middle of this moment in which, or can you think about a moment when? I guess I love the word moment. I don't even realize it. I can't even help myself. Another thing I was told that I say all the time is I mean. Sometimes I combo it with I mean like. And I say it really fast. I mean, like when I have something that I'm trying to say, but I'm not really sure if people are getting it, I'll rephrase it or I'll attach an illustration to it. And I'll usually connect the dots between those two things by saying like, I mean like, and I do it all the time. Somebody else brought to my attention that anytime I enter a room and there's a group of people there and the majority of those people are a little bit younger than me, I always greet them by saying like, hey kids. And I do this. And I don't know, those of you that like have gotten a little bit older who still refer to people in their 30s as kids, because to me, I'm 40. It's like if you're in your 30s, you're a kid to me. And I just give you permission. Like if you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, you have like full reign to call me a kid. Another thing that somebody told me that I do a lot is when I'm listening to someone intently, and they say something that resonates with me and I want to let them know that like I'm with them and I'm interested, I'll start nodding and then I'll go, yes. I don't know why I have to stretch it out like that, but I do it all the time. It's my way of trying to say like, I know what you're saying. I've got your back. I am recognizing what you're saying to be true, at least in my life and with my experiences. Now, I know we're all having a good old time yucking it up at Adam's expense, but here's the thing. You do this too. We all develop these verbal tics, these words or phrases that form the structure and fill up the spaces between our sentences. We don't even really set out to do this. We just do it. And in a culture like ours that is built by and around language, we become recognizable by the things that we say over and over and over again. And people start to think to themselves when they hear that word or that phrase, that's so you. And I wonder if you were to do this exercise with the people in your life, if you would like what they mirrored back to you. Like, would you be okay with or even proud of the statements that they ended up saying, like, that's so you? Or would you find yourself wishing you'd been saying something else or making a different sort of impression? And if so, I wonder if it's time to update your default settings. One of the key leaders in the early church was this guy named Paul. He's credited with having written the majority of the New Testament, which is mostly like a series of letters to some of the very first Christian churches. And I think if we were somehow to get a hold of Bill and Ted's time machine and go back and ask some of his closest disciples, some of the people that followed him or spent time around him, like what his verbal tics were, I don't think it would take them any time at all to identify it. Because there's this one phrase that he said over and over and over again. More than anything else that he writes this one singular phrase. In fact, it's echoed 18 times alone in the New Testament. And here's what it is. It's Ephesians chapter 1, verse 2 says this: "May God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ give you grace and peace." Now, I read this to you from the book of Ephesians, honestly, just because a couple of days ago, I was reading through the book of Ephesians for my personal devotional time, and it just like I stumbled across it. But the reality of it is, I could have read you the same exact passage from the first few chapters of the book of Romans, or 1st or 2nd Corinthians, or Galatians, or Philippians, or Colossians, or 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, or 1st and 2nd Timothy, or Titus, or Philemon. Because Paul writes it the same thing over and over and over again to these different groups of people. But, you know, like all good catchphrases, he's not the only one that says it, right? Like other people that he's orbiting, they start saying it too. And so I could have read you the same phrase or quoted it from 1st and 2nd Peter or 2nd John or Revelation, because it's everywhere. But unlike the verbal tics that you and I stumble on accidentally, I think this one was selected intentionally. And I say that because of the context. All these letters were written with the intention of being read by two totally different groups of people. Christianity started as this subsect of Judaism by a group of Jesus followers who believed that he was the Messiah or the savior of humanity. And eventually Gentiles or non-Jews were invited to join the movement because these people came to believe that what God was up to was for everyone, the people like them and not like them. And so they began to include all different sorts of people from all different sorts of backgrounds. And maybe you hear that and you're like, that sounds great. And it was, but it was also complicated. It was also like full of tension and frustration, because when you put together all different sorts of people, not everyone's going to see eye to eye. I mean, definitely not at first. And that's what's happening here, right? The Jewish believers lived according to certain religious systems and structures, routines, rituals, and rules, even after they had chosen to place their faith in Jesus. But the new believers didn't do all that stuff. Like these people that are being written to grew up in different places. They had different experiences. They spoke different languages. They were raised with different customs. And now they all wanted to follow Jesus, but they couldn't always agree on what following Jesus meant. and everyone had super strong opinions on the matter. And this is super hard to relate to, right? Or maybe it sounds like exactly what we are all living through right now. And here's the issue. We all like the idea of inclusivity as long as it doesn't require any level of compromise from me. But it always seems to. And compromise is uncomfortable because I don't want to be inconvenienced. I don't want to have to set that aside or, reconsider my position on this or bite my tongue when that subject comes up or do this or wear that or suffer through that particular activity. Like most of us are willing to compromise as long as we don't have to sacrifice. But unfortunately, those ideas are inseparable. So what happens when a group of people want to work together for a better future, but they can't agree on how to do it? Like what happens when you want to see people come together, but those people have so little in common? What happens when you want to bring new people in on something, but you're not sure how to do it without compromising what makes the thing special to begin with? Like, what do you do when so many people you care about are on different sides of the same issue and they all have strong opinions and they're all really passionate and there are certain pieces of several of the arguments that sort of make sense and you feel like you're caught in the middle? Again, I wish the Bible was more relatable, right? This feels like the world that we're living in. It definitely feels like the world I'm living in. In fact, this feels exactly like my job description. And this is the context Paul's letters are attempting to spiritually speak to. And he begins almost all of them the same exact way with this catchphrase, this verbal tick. This statement that was so him, grace and peace. So why? Why does he do that? Like, what does it mean? Like, what is he trying to communicate when he says this over and over again? Like, why this and not something else? I don't think it was just a catchphrase. I think it was a compass. I think it was his way of pointing to his North Star. I think it was his way of setting ground rules at the start of incredibly complicated conversations. I think it was his way of saying like, hey, wherever else this conversation goes and whatever else is said, especially by me, may this be the guiding force. Like, may this be what you interpret everything you hear or read from me through. Grace and peace. And so let's pick it apart. First off, I think it's really interesting that this phrase is cobbled together from two words from two totally different languages. One of the words is Greek and the other one is Hebrew. He merges like an idea from each of these groups into one. It's almost as if he's saying, like, the future of this movement isn't about forcing your way or doing it all their way, but finding a new way. And the process of unraveling that something new is going to be messy and it's not going to be easy, but God has been at work in all of you this whole time. And the way forward is found in pieces of both of your paths, in grace and peace. And so what do these words mean? Like, they're both packed with so much meaning. It's difficult to assign either of them like a simple, succinct definition. And so I'm gonna have to kind of talk around about them and paint a word picture because they're just so big and meaty and expansive. Let's begin with grace. Grace comes from this Greek word, charis, which means gift. Grace is something you receive that you had no part in. It's not a product of your effort, your background, your reputation. It's not reciprocation. It's not a reward. It's not payback. You don't deserve it. You didn't earn it. You were blessed with it. It's a kindness. Grace is also this idea of a profound sort of acceptance, of being embraced for who you are, right where you are, imperfections and all. It's the kind of acceptance that tells you to slow down and take a deep breath and stop trying so hard, stop performing, stop running, stop working and fighting so hard to be so impressive to so many people. Like, grace begs us to relax. It's this idea that says, like, you have nothing more to prove. Just be. Grace is the kind of gift that doesn't ask for anything in return. It's not a down payment, right? It's not an incentive. It's not a manipulation, hoping you'll do something else later. It doesn't come with strings attached. Once you receive it, it can't be taken away. There's this untouchable permanence to it. Grace is this sort of gift that when you dig into its background to try and find some sort of a reason for its existence, all you ever come up with is love. Grace opens itself up to the possibility that there are other sides to the story, that you might not have all the information, that things may be more involved or complicated or nuanced than you want to believe they are, and that the person that you're tempted to hate has a name and a story and a family and a history and feelings. It's refusing to discount the humanity of somebody that hurt us. It's responding to others based on how God responds to us. It's giving someone better than they deserve because God gave us better than we deserve. Peace comes from a different language altogether. Peace comes from a Hebrew word, the word shalom, which basically means whole. This is another huge concept. Like, we typically think of peace as like the absence of conflict, right? It's that moment at home where no one is whining and no one's complaining and no one's hitting their sister and no one's secretly mad at anybody else. But that's not really this. Like, shalom isn't the absence of anything. It's the presence of everything. It's everything in its right place. It's balance, wholeness, completeness, soundness, tranquility, harmony, contentment, alignment. It's this idea of being comfortable in your own skin, of letting go of the angst of wishing that you were someone else, that you looked different or weighed less or lived somewhere else or had a different job. It's this decision not to suspend your happiness for some future date when you've got it all together. It's this place where you've learned to love your own imperfections. Peace is a refusal to be ruled by your past. It's not pretending that it didn't happen. It's being awake and aware of the fullness of your story, like every last piece of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, which we've all got. It's acknowledging your dysfunction, your emotional baggage, your pain, your trauma, but not allowing it to control you anymore. It's refusing to let your past disappointments kill your future hope. It's choosing to move past your past, to accept it, to finally face it, to rise above it, to not allow it to permanently disable parts of you, but to move you toward healing. Peace is where you've managed to silence the impulse to control someone else. It's allowing them to be them, to have their personality, not yours, to have their opinion, to have their version of the story, which may completely differ from yours. It's loving them while having healthy boundaries with them. Peace is doing what you can do and releasing the rest to God. It's working toward an end, yet living worry-free. It's knowing that you're reconciled to and right with God. It's actively caring for others, yourself, and the earth, but without the stress of everything being on your shoulders. It's knowing that you are a participant, that your part matters, but it's not all up to you. It's the experience of the pressure being off. When you hear these two definitions, these two descriptions of these two words, isn't there something about hearing them fully fleshed out that causes you to breathe a little easier? Like, isn't there part of you that when you hear this, things like, yes, I want that. I want to give that to other people. Like, I want my life to revolve around those ideals because I feel that way. And I think there's a good reason for that. This is the gospel. Christianity is about learning to receive and reflect the grace and peace of God. If you were to boil it down to its essence, I think that's what you'd come up with. And this is why Paul begins and ends everything this way. This is the big idea for him. It's the starting point and the finish line, because in his mind, there's always going to be issues and complications and conflicts and details and things to be considered. But for him, grace and peace are to be our guiding forces, our compass forward, the framework for everything that we say and do. This is the way of Jesus. It's this mode of living in which, like, when I come to a crossroads of conflict, instead of forcing you to do what I want you to do, I lay down my life for you. Now, that's different than the way the rest of the world thinks, than the way the rest of everything everywhere works. That's why it's so profound. And here's what makes this concept really, really hard. You can't give grace and peace to anyone else until you first accept it for yourself. And I don't know that all of us have done that. I think some of us are constantly at war with others because we're most at war with ourselves. Like, if we peeled apart your story, I think you might realize, like, you're graceless in your interactions with everyone else because you refuse to embrace grace for yourself. You can't love others fully because you hate yourself, at least partially. You can't give the gift of peace because you've never really received it. Like, peace doesn't flow from you because it doesn't exist within you. And the truth of the matter is, you could get everything you wanted, and you could get everyone to be who you wanted them to be and to do what you wanted them to do, and you would still be miserable. I mean, I know some of you are like, well, I'd still like to try it, but it's not the solution, because it's not ultimately about them. It's first about what God wants to do in you. So if maybe you are sitting there today and you're thinking to yourself, I'm not sure I like what I'd come up with if I asked myself the question, what is it that people think of when they think of me? When they think of our interactions, when they think of my words, our conversations, our text messages. I'm not sure I like the answer. You can change it. But how? You surrender to it. The truth is, it's not that you have more access to grace and peace at some times and not others. It's that you're more aware and accepting of your access to grace and peace at some times more than others. Because the truth of the message of the gospel is that grace and peace abound, that they're everywhere, that it surrounds you, but you have to surrender to it. It's a choice that we all make every single day. I think part of the reason that Paul repeats this is not just for his audience. I think he repeats it for himself, to remind himself what is most important, because it's so easy to drift in the other direction. Being graceful is way harder than being graceless. Being at peace is way harder than being at war. And neither concept can be achieved at the depths with which it's designed without the help of its designer, God. Getting access to grace and peace in our life has a lot to do with opening our hearts to God and inviting Him to flood our soul with His presence. This ultimately is how you resolve conflict with others and even with yourself. You submit yourself to the grace and peace of God. What if this is what you became known for? Like, what if when people heard the phrase grace and peace, they thought to themselves, that is so you. Like the way that you talk, the way that you treat people, the way you handle your money, the way that you handle people who disagree with you, the way you handle situations you kind of wish you didn't have to be a part of, the way you handle conflicting views and opinions, the way you handle people who have deeply hurt you. What if when people thought about all of those situations and circumstances, they just thought, man, how would I describe their response? Full of grace and peace. Here's what I think. I think we could all use a whole lot more grace and peace in our lives right now. The whole world is in need of it. And how are they going to get access to it? Yeah, I mean, I know some of you raised your hand real quick and you got the right Sunday school answer, like they're going to get it from God. But how are they going to know to get it from God? Because they're going to see it first in you. And that's what I want to pray into all of our lives today, mine included, that God would continually refocus us on grace and peace. Would you bow your head with me, like wherever you find yourself today? I want to pray that God would put us on a path towards these two things. Dear Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for your grace and peace in our lives. God, we know that we have been given a gift in you, through you. God, we know that we are all the recipients of things that we do not deserve. And God, we're grateful for the wholeness that you want to impart to us. Some of us have gotten a little taste of it here and there. But God, it's so easy to get distracted away from these two things that are at the heart of the gospel, that ought to be at the heart of the Christian experience, that ought to be at the heart of the way that we approach all of life. And God, I pray that we would open our hearts and submit to your grace and your peace, that we would receive and then reflect it to the people around us. God, I pray that we would be an entire community of people, that when people think of us, they think of grace and peace, that they want to be around us and a part of our lives, that they want to have conversations with us and be in our presence and sit through our services and step into a growth group in our homes, because they know that when they're around people that call South Hills home, they're around people who bring into their lives more grace and more peace. God, we realize we can only embody this because we get it from you and give it away to others. We ask that you would empower us to do that. In Jesus' name, amen. If you prayed that prayer with us today for the first time, or maybe the first time in a long time, you had this moment where you opened your heart and your life to Jesus to be the center of your life, to lead you on a path toward grace and peace. We want to hear about it, because we believe that moment of saying yes to Jesus is of the utmost importance to living the fullest life possible. And we want to hear about it so that we can help you take some next steps forward in your faith journey. And the way you would let us know is to simply text the word connect to the number at the bottom of your screen right now. And a connect card, an electronic connect card, is going to be sent back to you. And you can fill out your basic information, click the box that said, I said yes, along with any other boxes about anything you want to know about. And one of our team members will follow up with you this week, pray with you. We want to give you a free Bible, a reading plan, and answer any questions you have and connect you with some other people that can help you on your step-by-step journey forward with Jesus. And the last thing I want to invite you to do with us today is to give with us. Your consistent giving is what enables us to do ministry on an ongoing basis. And there have been so many of you that have been so incredibly faithful to what God has called you to give, to take the first and best of everything that you receive, and you've invested that into our local church. It's your way of giving to God through us. And we have really been intentional during this season to utilize your resources in the wisest possible manner. And so for those of you that call this your church home, I want to encourage you to give right now in this moment. You can give through our website, which is southhills.org/give. You can give through the Church Center app. And if you do, make sure you select the Corona campus. You can give through our text to give function. And you can also give by mailing in your tithes or your offerings to our address here on our Corona campus. But I want to just let you know that your giving makes a big difference. And in fact, last week, I invited you all to give above and beyond what you normally give to BOW. It stands for Beyond Our Walls, for a very specific project in partnering with our Johannesburg campus to meet the needs of kids who need school uniforms, school supplies, food for school. And because you all stepped up and gave generously above and beyond your tithe, we were able to meet the goal that we set for ourselves. And I just want to say thank you. What a gift to that community. You're impacting the lives of people you will never probably ever even meet. And this week, I've got an additional challenge for you. In fact, all month long, all September long, we are going to be partnering with Olive Crest, which is an organization that provides housing to kids who did not really grow up or not currently in a great home situation. And Olive Crest does an incredible job of taking care of these kids and providing group housing and life skills for them. All month long, we're gonna be having donation bins here on campus. So you can drop by the office, whether that's on the weekend during our services, or whether that's during the week during our office hours, and donate a number of practical supplies that these kids need to have bedding and toiletries and all the sorts of things that you and I would need. Think of if you were moving into a dorm sort of a situation, all of the things that you would need. We're going to be collecting all of those sorts of things to be able to provide to these kids. And if maybe purchasing specific items is not something that you're able to do, I want to encourage you just to donate the money so that we can purchase those items on your behalf. You can give $10 to Corona BOW, and we'll make sure that we invest that money into the lives of the kids that go to this organization. Again, you can find links to the shopping list, to Beyond Our Walls, to all those sorts of things in the video description for the video that you're watching right now, or in the link tree of our Instagram account. Because you lean in practical ways, we are able to give grace and peace to so many people on your behalf. I love you guys. I'm so excited to jumpstart this new series Storyline next week. I hope you have an incredible week, and we'll see you next weekend.
Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed and learned something from the message. And we encourage you to share it with your friends and family through Facebook, Vimeo, or YouTube. We also encourage you to connect with us by texting CONNECT to 951-476-2550, and to follow us on social media platforms so that you can see all the things that are going on here at South Hills. Also, if you have not already downloaded the Church Center app, that is the best way that you can see what's going on and sign up for all the different events that we have going on, including our in-person outdoor sunset service tonight at 6 p.m. So make sure that you check all the things out that we have going on, and don't forget to drop off your items for Olive Crest anytime during our services on Sundays, or check out our Amazon wish list. We love you guys, and we'll see you next week or tonight at 6 p.m. for our sunset service.